In today's video, we're going to be reviewing episode 12 of ReZero Season 2.
So without further ado, let's get right into the review. So today's episode ends up going back with Subaru coming back from his little adventure with Roswald from episode 11, or like how Blackbeard could say, escapade, whatever that means.
It's just like an adventure, or like something.
That's what
like
I thought.
Like a journey.
So he is back, and everything seems to be back to normal until Subaru tends to have his little panics. After going through the regular routine of waking up Amelia, taking her back to that little cabin and putting her to sleep, he goes back into the trial and tries to get talk to Ekidana.
Tries to get her to invite him back
to the tea party.
The sanctuary.
Before that happens, we see Subaru start getting like what would look like migraines to the head, like visual migraines, and he falls onto the ground and passes out. And we see one of his experiences of him dying and someone trying to save him, which was the cat Felix and what was the old man's name?
Dude, I can't remember.
Will, like, started with a W.
It's not William.
I don't think it was William.
It's
Warren
something.
or something.
No, it's not Warren.
I thought it was Warren.
No, it might be actually Warren.
So basically, it was the time where he found Rem's soul was taken, or her memories was taken of her, and he stabbed himself in the neck to try to restart.
Oh my God.
It was basically the after of what happened there, and Amelia was upset, Felix was upset. They were trying to figure out, obviously, why he would do this, and then Subaru awakens and he starts to vomit. He starts to ask, "What is this? What is happening?" And then it happens again. He starts seeing the after effects of his death. All those times he chose to die to restart, he's seeing after effects of what happens of his death. Almost as if parallel universes or different timelines of what could have happened if they would continue on after his death. So we start to see all of these Subaru starting to watch him. He starts to freak out. He starts to panic. He starts to lose himself once again. Crybaby Subaru starts to appear again, and he starts to panic. He starts to
cry
and cry. And then we see Rem appear.
Not Rem, no.
Rem appears and tries to comfort him, telling him that he's done a lot. He's been through a lot. All he needs to do is just give up and rest. And that's when Subaru starts remembering, obviously, that Rem wouldn't say that. But at the time before that, he starts releasing all his frustrations, all his insecurities about how if these things are all of these after images that he saw are real, that he's killed everyone multiple times, all that guilt is hitting him. And then it's not until that after Rem was going to give him a kiss, that he remembers the thought that Rem wouldn't tell him to give up and Rem would tell him to stand up, that he snaps out of it to ask, "Who is this?
Who are you?"
Basically, who are you? And we see that the figure that was Rem is actually the Witch of Lust, Camilla. I think it was Camilla, right? Yeah, Camilla. And Subaru takes one step, by the way, and almost dies because Ekidana stops him.
Her passive
is like made in heart. Or like anyone who gets too close, like she'll take your breath.
Yeah, she like makes you forget to breathe, and then if you get too close, your heart stops. Yeah, it's like what a passive.
So that is when Subaru's brought to the tea party, and he starts to have a chat with Ekidana on what was happening, if this was your plan, yada yada yada. And Ekidana starts to explain why she did this, and it was in order to save him from the trial so he wouldn't lose his mind and his self. And it was at that time that Ekidana became a saleswoman for some reason and tried to have him start a contract with her, stating that if you give me everything that you go through, all your experiences, your emotions, your answers, yourself, everything that you do that involves return by death, if you give me all of it, the knowledge, the curiosity, the ability for you to just be in the presence of you dying all the time, for me to see what would happen, to what is the word I'm trying to use? One that says, so my fill. Like, you know how like you never get hungry, like you never get full, you're always hungry to You kind of you get it?
Yeah, it's I think it's just my. No, it's not hunger, but in that sense,
To sate
it's
my hunger.
it's to sate my. It it sounds better because like they usually say thirst instead of hunger.
So you guys would probably understand. Basically, it's she wants to
my thirst for knowledge and stuff like
so
that.
basically, she just wants to experience everything that could happen through Subaru and gain it all, like the knowledge, everything. Because remember, Ekidana is greed. She wants everything that deals with this. She has an insatiable amount of greed for knowledge and everything, and Subaru is that key to her. So she tries to get him to sign up on this contract, and it's not until then that right before she gives Subaru, right before Subaru is about to accept it, the Witch of Wrath appears and I was about to say the sin. The Witch of Wrath appears, telling him that she's been she's not lying, but she's not telling him the full truth. That there's a lot of things she's hiding. The Witch of Lust appears to further wrath and to state that Ekidana has a lot of dark secrets she's not telling you, as well as which was his payment, was that he would have to give up everything in order to have Ekidana's help in getting the future that he wants. You know, she would be like his kind of weird therapist that would help him through all his like restarts, and she would go to him, or he would go to her to get the answers to fix everything and to get the future that he wants, aka the good ending that he wants. But then
guess who we see?
Yeah, then a new sin appears, which was the sin of sloth. Now, as sloth is very slothful, doesn't do much. She is there as the watch guard to just make sure everything is fair. That's when pride appears.
No. Now tell them who she looks like.
Oh yeah, the Witch of Sloth looks like Roswell. Makeup, the things on his eyes, the hair, everything. He looks like Roswell, which makes sense. Think about it, guys. Roswell is trying to reach his goal without doing anything. He wants Subaru to do everything so that he can get his goal.
Because of what he said. Because he said because even though he'll die, he'll reach his goal because of Subaru.
And that soon Subaru will become just like him. What do you mean by just like him? Someone who falls into a contract to get what he wants. It makes so much sense that Roswald would be some type of way a contractor with Sloth to reach his goal. So, now since we're aware of that, and you have to remember, every time someone contracts with a witch, they always take some kind of aspect of them. For example, the Archbishop of Gluttony has the aspect of the teeth, same as the Witch of Gluttony. The Archbishop of Greed, which you have to remember, there's still two archbishops that we haven't seen. The Archbishop of Greed takes not only the yellow eyes, but the white hair from as well as Ekidana. And then we have Roswald, who is maybe not an archbishop, maybe is an archbishop.
Because wasn't Betelgeuse an archbishop?
Betelgeuse was also an archbishop, but he was of envy. And if you kind of remember, he didn't take that way of always hiding himself.
He wasn't envy.
Yeah. He was sloth.
Yeah, he was sloth. Because the dude was always talking about slothful.
But you got to remember, he was using sloth to get to envy, and his powers, you could say, were like of envies. So was he truly an archbishop of sloth or an archbishop of envy? It's possible that he was an archbishop of sloth while still trying to get to be envy. So that we'll have to come back to Betelgeuse another time to kind of further explain how he could tie up with not being an archbishop of sloth while trying to get to envy. So
it makes sense that Roswell would be like under a contract.
It would. So coming back
now, OVA, Roswell's point of view.
That could be a thing on how Roswell's point of view and how he became like that.
Yeah.
So coming back, all the witches start to appear. Pride appears, Gluttony appears, and they all are there to see the tea party. Where then Ekidana shows her true intentions, and basically says that I want to use you and your ability returned by death. It is the greatest ability for someone who seeks information. Your ability to come back from death, to see things how they would play differently, is the ultimate gift to gaining knowledge, to sate my curiosity, and to get what I and to fill my belly of greed. You have everything that I want, and she wants to take everything. And obviously, as she begins to explain on how it would be beneficial for her, for her to have Subaru as her contractor, because how it would impact her, you start to see Ekidana's face start to twist from that of what we thought was both like an innocent waifu into the true intentions of a dark witch. Because you have to remember, even though they all look pure, these are still witches. And this isn't no medieval time thing where like you feel bad for the witches are actually good. No. These witches have committed grave sins against the world to get what they want.
I remember when
some of them may act innocent, like Ekidana, but she's obviously a liar. While, Wrath, who we would have expected to be evil, could still be in a type of way good. But these witches, you can't bring in who's good and who's bad. They could care less on good or evil. They want to feel they're acting upon their emotions of their sin. They could give a crap about good or evil. They just want to fulfill their sin. So Subaru then asks the question, do you know about Beatrice? Ekidana answered yes. He starts to ask, why would you do this to Beatrice? Why would you have her wait all these years? Ekidana says, I never had her wait. She made that promise, and she waited 400 years before she could make a decision to wait upon someone. And that is when Subaru starts to understand that Ekidana doesn't care about people's emotions. She doesn't care about comprehending what people think, about understanding the human heart. She just doesn't obviously care. She just wants to fill her greed, and that's what greed is. Always wanting to take but never really care about anything else other than to fill their desires. So we start to see how Ekidana says, basically, it's wonderful that she would do this for my research, basically. And Subaru loses it. Subaru's like, I can't take your hand. I can't fall with you, and because you can't understand how it is to be human. And we have to remember, there was also a part where Subaru said something to Ekidana saying, you can't comprehend emotions, and he said something right after, and he's like, see, at this point, you're supposed to be angry. And Ekidana smiled and said, I understand, you taught me a lot. And that's when she got really pissed and said, I'll remember to show you my anger next time. And she made a little T-step, like the entire environment changed. And that's when Subaru said, I can't choose you. I'm going to choose the one person that you guys have been banishing and you guys have been putting down this entire time. I'm going to choose. And then who do you see? The Witch of Envy appears. And now you have to remember, the Witch of Envy supposedly killed all the other witches to entrap them in a world where they can't come out. And I'm throwing this as a theory, and you have to hear me on this.
Yeah, okay.
Hear my theory. It was on Ekidana's face when I started to realize what could possibly be happening. When Envy appeared, which, by the way, we actually saw her true name. It was started with a T.
No, it was Satella, but Pride called her Tella.
Tella, yes, Satella, nickname of Tella. Ekidana's face was that of not a face of almost fear when she saw Envy appear. All the other sins were just like, whoa, she's actually here. Sloth was saying that she was another problem child was here. Pride was actually happy. Lust was shocked. Lust was actually scared. And I couldn't remember Wrath. I don't remember Wrath's. Gluttony was also happy because
Gluttony said,
she's like, oh man, I'm hungry now.
I'm getting hungry, man.
And Envy started to walk towards where the tea party would be, looking like where this confession was going to be. But it wasn't until I saw Ekidana's expression that I started to realize something. Maybe we have this story all wrong. Once again, Wrath and Lust have proven that Ekidana has been lying. Or not lying, but not telling the full truth. It is possible that, yes, The Witch of Envy killed all the sins and entrapped them. But maybe it wasn't because of an evil. It wasn't because she was evil. It could have been out of a good intention. We are all said to believe that the Witch of Envy is literal evil.
Yeah, because like they didn't look mad.
They didn't look angry. Only with her. Ekidana was the one that looked upset. And I think about it now. Why would she be so upset? What would she have to fear of envy being present? And that's the thing. Greed can't attain the power that envy has. She was very close to not only escaping. I don't even think she cares about escaping the world. She wants to fulfill her powers, and she just wants to gain things. So I started to think, though, why would you need the Witch of Envy? A person who has the ability of envies, a gift from envy. When you yourself are an almighty powerful witch, you have all knowledge. It'd be so easy for you to entice another to do something. But that's the thing. She only entices them. Once they die, they die. This is like a toy. She's been given a toy that doesn't break. It's almost like a book that has all the information and continuously gets more. This was this golden loot box for her. And she almost had it for herself. She wanted to take Subaru for herself so she could get all that. But envy, and there's one thing you have to understand, the Witch of Greed and envy don't like each other. I'm not sure how it would usually be, but if you think about how the sins are, they genuinely, you could see how they wouldn't like each other.
Yeah.
Greed is something that, in a way, envies people of what they have, of their material worth and takes. But sometimes it's not material, sometimes it's other things. For example, one may have a greed for knowledge, one may have a greed for money, a materialistic object. One may have a greed for people themselves, that greed of attention, the greed of material, and the greed of knowledge. So that's when envy appears. Envy doesn't like that. Envy is when envy is jealous of someone, it would eventually try to take what it wants. That is envy, jealousy. So you could kind of see how in the story how they played out, how greed and envy might not like each other in the ReZero story, because that's how they have, in a way, set them up to be. How can I word this? Two feelings that are trying, or there's a way of wording it. Two desires that go against each other because one can't have everything it wants without the interference of another, and that's where it is. Greed, aka Kidana, and Satella, envy, is fighting over this object known as Subaru, who has one is fighting for his feeling, the other is fighting for his worth and the gift given. So that kind of went through, and that took like a little bit of time to explain. But basically, if you in a weird way now, the episode ends with Envy now arriving at the tea party and walking towards the rest of the witches, and it ends it there. Now, could this be the last episode of ReZero season 2?
It's episode 12. I think so. I mean, man, like it's too crazy to pass up on.
Obviously, I can't follow upon Blackbeard.
It's either that they're making another, because I don't think this is the end of the season. I think it's gonna be another part, like how they did with SAO, because they did part 1 of Underworld and then they just released part 2 after a break.
Oh, well, I could see how they could do a part 1, part 2, but there was no to be continued. Yeah. There was no nothing. There was no to say that there's going to be a part 2, that it's stopping here, that there's not going to be any more episodes, that there was no type of information saying that they were stopping. So that's where I kind of say they might be going for more episodes. But then again, there was nothing said saying that they were going to continue. But there was also nothing saying that they were going to stop. So that's why I'm kind of leaving it out. Other than that, I'm pretty sure we.
No, not we. You.
Yeah, I talked about all the theories. Well, do you have a theory, Black?
You said everything.
Well,
I couldn't say anything.
Well, I informed them of all the information necessary. You still didn't answer. You did help with that with Roswell. You didn't.
Yeah, I did remind her because that's the thing that most likely caught me off guard. Because it was crazy.
But you could have pitched in too.
I tried.
You didn't.
Yeah, you're right.
You didn't take initiative. All right. So, do you have a theory before I close this out? Anything that you want to say on your part?
No, I was gonna say the stuff in the beginning that you said.
Oh, okay.
And then when I kind of pitched in because they weren't mad.
Yeah. Well, Black Bear does remind me of things that I eventually do forget. So that's why I do keep them around. So, alrighty, my fellow brother bears, we're gonna end it off right here. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below on your theories if you guys agree with our theories, if you believe that we missed something, and also if you guys do get any type of information on whether the series will be continuing still or if they will be doing a part 1, part 2. We would mostly appreciate that kind of information. We ourselves would probably look for it, but school, lazy, and also I have other things to do for tomorrow, so I can't go. I could also do it today, but nah. Alrighty, my fellow Builder Bears. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us.
That's not the way it goes.
That's not how it is. Yeah. I'm your host, the one and only Buddha Bear.
And I'm your co-host, Black Bear.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in with us here in the Anime Den.